Who's the best? 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 Me? No. Never. Never you. Oh. Oh yes, my fellow hunters! Iceborne is done! But that means that we can look back at all the wondrous monsters that doth grace these snowy shores and declare which one of them is not the best monster per se, but the best hunt, the best fight, the best experience, the best to stab and be stabbed by in turn in a deadly dance of affection that'll leave you, feeling okay. So, let me break down how I'm gonna do this. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories based on what about a monster means a lot to me. So we're gonna take them all, leverage them out, and then we'll see which is the best, at least the best as far as I'm concerned. And I'll admit, after doing this, I'm surprised to what I've learned. I'm so sorry. Those 5 categories then are the aesthetic of the fight, you know, the effects, the glow, the explosions, the monster itself somewhat, and, you know, the general just... Oh my god, it's... wow! Then we have the fair challenge category. This is the kind of difficulty. You don't want too easy, you don't want too hard, you don't want anything that feels unfair. You know, you want a good fight, a solid fight. Then you have the farmability, you know, how much fun is it to kill the monster over and over and over and over and over and over again? Do they get old or boring? Then the initial impact, when you saw it for the first time, did your first hunt, went in blind and had the creature reveal itself before you? How blown away were you? That's actually it, actually. It's just 4 categories. It's not 5 at all, and I just did that whole thing, and now it's just really awkward. So, for example, my honorable mention is Safi'jiiva, because look, it was really cool having the story of Zeno expanded upon, making him a confirmed baby, giving an adult form. His initial impact was massive, and while each of these categories is out of 5, I can't help but give him, you know, a 6, because it was... I just remember the cutscene playing after Stygian when you first find him, and I was just... I was so happy. It was so cool. But he's not on the list proper because he's let down by farmability, you know? He's a much better raid fight in terms of repeatedly doing it than Kulve, but it's still not the most fun thing in the world. He's just got a 2. And fair challenge, he's not that difficult, is he? It's kind of just work. It's get the job done, get the weapon, so that's down at a 2. Aesthetics up at a 4, solely because while I think that he looks much worse, or at least less interesting than Zeno, he's just kind of a red dragon. Sapphire of the Emperor is the single most incredible, impressive move I honestly believe in all of Monster Hunter, and that just elevates it by itself. It is a breathtaking attack. The heartbeat as it drops. Help me! Oh, the rocks! The rocks! The rocks! The rocks! The rocks! The rocks! I just love it. So he collectively has a score of 14. So, let's move on to actual number 5 then. And this one might surprise you, but goddamn! You're beautiful! And he is Coral Pukei. The probably most surprising fight that I adored in Iceborne. His initial impact is 5, because look, I didn't know what to expect from the subspecies. I didn't know which ones we would get. And I certainly didn't expect to get the most creative and, in my book, the best subspecies ever, a title which used to belong to Glacial Agnactor, so sorry, buddy. Oh. With some of the most fun attacks on top of being, again, probably up there in the top 3 best weak monsters, only beaten by something like Malfestio, whom I absolutely adore. But things like the firing the beam of water and then splitting it into 2 with his tongue, all of the tail attacks, the super attack, the fact that he's actually, you know, fairly difficult-ish for his level of monster, he just has so much going for him on top of being a colourful, beautiful, fun, I think he's great. His challenge, of course, is just a 1, because it's a Pukei with water, so that is his main downfall. His farmability is 3, because, well, it's not that engaging, because you just kind of mash your way through him, because, again, low-tier monster, it still always gets a... Coral, oh, he's great. He's great every time I see him, and that's a nice feeling. I genuinely believe him to be a masterpiece of a subspecies and a masterpiece of a quirky low-tier monster to get your hunting gears in motion. A grand total of 14, which I realise is the same as Safi'jiiva, okay, but I wanted Coral Pukei on the list, so, you know, that's why Safi's in the honorable mentions. Next up then, at number 4! Yes, it's Shara. How can it not be Shara? Did anybody see this coming? When you went into Iceborne, were you like, I know what the final boss is gonna be? A tree demon that makes, like, rock just disintegrate into pools of sand using sound vibrations. Oh, and by the way, it's going to start encased in rock, so you have no idea what you're fighting. Is it a weird spider thing? Who knows? And then it reveals that, and then later on in the fight, the eyes. How can anybody get over the impact of those eyes? He gets a 6 in impact. It would have been a 5, but with the eyes staring into your soul through the camera. He knows. You don't forget that. It is wondrous. He is freaky. He is amazing. He is just one of the most unique experiences ever in Monster Hunter, and that initial first hunt is something that will stay with me for a long time. Whether it stay with me in a kind of, or a, yeah, way, maybe a mix of both, but stay with me it will. His aesthetic is up at a 4, because look, he is a freaky tree demon with starey, creepy eyes. That's not like a, you know, technically good aesthetic, but it is a strong aesthetic and a memorable one, and I do really like it. I love the slow reveal as you chip away at the rock. I love how good his rock golem form looks. I love the sound waves shimmering in the air, and of course the big ball of death. He has just visuals to spare. He really does. The fair challenge is down at a 3 because, look, the initial fight against him was a little bit okay, cuts here and there, we had to have a few attempts, but he quickly became and is sort of fodder, which is the case for a base game monster once we've had title update monster power creep, but, you know, he's not exactly testing you, but you also can't completely switch off. He's very much in the middle, at least to me. Farmability, I'm going to go over 2, because, look, you didn't really have to farm him, because some of his weapons were really good, but his armor kind of never really was, except for one piece, but I well, getting through the rock form becomes just a chore, and then you get to the actual good bit of the fight, and he's got a lot of health, or at least he did. You chew for it quite now, but there's nothing exciting to me about, yeah, let's hunt 5 Sharas in a row. It's kind of like, oh, can we not? So I've got that down at 2, which gives him a total of 15, which is still a very respectable score here, and a solid ranking at 4th place. Number 3 then, it's time for Tentacles with Namielle. How could it not be? We have an initial impact here of 5, because of course we do. We had a base world where the most interesting fucking water monster was Mudfish. Mudfish! God, I hate Mudfish.
Stop doing this edit where you make me slowly go back into the water to sad music.
So to get this, like, weird tentacle, sort of squiddy, deep-dwelling, beautiful horror was amazing. To have tidal waves shifting you about the battlefield was amazing. And need I say the initial impact of the light show, when Namielle lights up, my god. There is a reason I think she may have actually made her way into my top 5 monsters of all time. Because, look, it is one of the most breathtakingly beautiful creature designs I have ever seen in my life across all media. It is just perfect. It is one of my ideas of an ideal monstery animal. It really is. I cannot put across how much the design of Namielle is one of the best things my eyeballs have ever witnessed. It really is. It makes me happy every time I see that wondrous light show. The combination of electric and water is fantastic, and that ultimate attack, the explosion is one thing, but the rainfall afterwards, it's just, I love it. So a 5 on impact, you may then guess that the aesthetic is also a 5, because everything in that fight is just brilliant. Everything Namielle does looks brilliant. Every attack looks brilliant. Every part of it is just a feast of visual just loveliness, and I can't get over how much I adore it. Farmability is a 3, because although she's not that hard, she is quite tanky, and, you know, she has a bit to get on with. She did get an Arch-Tempered, which of course upped the difficulty and made it more of an intense fight. I think it's fair to say she's a very middling monster. You're not quaking in your boots, but you're also not there like, oh, can we just kill her already? You know, it's nice, and you're always happy to see her because she's such a cool monster. So repeat hunts really are, you know, good. Fair challenge, also very middling 3. As I said, she's not too hard, not too easy. She's about right for an Elder Dragon that you can kill kind of fine now with all of the armor that we have. She's just kind of, you know, in that good spot. Or at least, maybe it could be a little bit harder. I mean, the 3 is there for a reason, but in any case, I think in terms of just actually hunting her, she's just fine. But that look, the aesthetic, the impact it carries, and it carries her to a 16 and 3rd. Now, for 2 and 1, I have been agonizing over this, and they swapped backwards and forwards multiple times. You could probably guess what both of them are, but maybe not the order, or maybe the order. And I will say that what I'm about to say as 2 has spent more time at number 1, but I just decided to switch at the last moment. But enough, you know, building up. Number 2, Fatalis. Yes, indeed. And this, to me, is because, well, of one main reason. The initial impact gets that 6 score. It gets that above even what should be the maximum. Because, look, Fatalis has been built up in the lore with his ecology as, well, he's the god of all monsters, you know? He's the most powerful creature to exist in the Monster Hunter universe. He wipes out kingdoms. He is an unstoppable force of nature. He grows from a single scale. His armor encases hunters, drives them insane, turns them into more Fatalis. His fire is unparalleled, unmatched by any other living thing. He is just it, the zenith. But until Iceborne, the only incarnations of him were, let's be honest, a little bit lame. They did not befit his legend. Whereas now, when you see him bathe, shrouded in flames, there's just this moment of, oh, I get it now. I understand. I am sorry if I ever doubted him or what he could do. That is the destroyer of a whole army. That is... wow. You know, it's that I am never going to forget that. It was everything I wanted, right? Fatalis in my eyes had a point to prove, and he proved it perfectly. He really did. So the impact has to be a 6. All of his new moves, the arena itself, the siege weapons, the story building up to it, the whole shebang of that was just glorious. It really, really was, and I am so happy it happened. The aesthetic is down at a 4. I say down 4, a 5 is still a very good score, because although all of his fire looks gorgeous, trade looks gorgeous, everything going on in the fight looks gorgeous, Fatalis himself is a cool dragon, don't get me wrong, he's a very classic dragony dragon, but he is a fairly simple design, which is a symptom of the era he was introduced, but he isn't, you know, anything too crazy. He definitely has an air of command and menace, but I think there are a lot of cooler looking monsters, so he's at 4 here. The farmability is also at a 4 because while he is quite brutally difficult, he is also very satisfying to learn, and every single time you do him, you get a little bit better and better and better, and he's very satisfying to have repeat attempts again. And everything that happens in that fight is always fun. It's always fun to get on the ballista and just rail him with damage. It's always fun to fire the Dragonator. And it's always fun to try and break that first horn before he goes supernova. You know, there are things to be getting on with, and you just, kind of enjoy it, and I really do. His fair challenge, then, is also at a 4, because yes, he can be brutally difficult, but the tools are there to make it easier, especially this far on, where farming him is kind of a doddle. He just mostly dies in any given hunt I ever do on him with any random combination of players. People understand him now, so the challenge isn't crazy, but he's still powerful enough that he catches people off guard, and carts happen. I'd say, on average hunt, one cart will always happen to Fatalis, and I think that's a really nice spot to be in. You have to be on your toes, and as you should be for, again, the god of all monsters. But the siege weaponry, I think, takes this from a 5 to a 4. It really is the crutch on the fight, but that's no bad thing. It makes sense, it harkens to his battle with Shrade, it is as synonymous with Fatalis as his fire. You need siege weaponry against him, you need the big guns for the biggest monster gun. And that is lovely, but I think a 4 is very much reasonable. But again, he is an all-round just solid experience, a solid encounter with one hell of an introduction to live up to his name. And that puts him at an 18 and second. And of course, you're gonna know what is number 1. It is Raging Brachydios. I love him! How could it not be? And while this is a list of best hunts, not best monsters, I do think his hunt, well, kind of got the Fatalis treatment. Raging Brachy has a big build-up. He is an exceptionally powerful monster. The most powerful variant, the most powerful brute wyvern. He is on par with a lot of elder dragons, functionally immortal. He is a big deal with big explosions. And that needed to kind of be put across, to be shown. And, well, it was, eventually. I do have the initial impact of Raging Brachy at a 3 because it is just big Brachy. He looked lovely and I love the darker colours and the different, more orangey slime, but it is kind of big Brachy. It's like, okay, well, what's he gonna do? It just looks like Brachy. But it does have enough of a, okay, he is huge, Jesus, to get a bit of an impact, but it's mostly the excitement of what's he gonna do, not what he's already doing. So a 3 there I think is fair. Then, the aesthetic of the fight has to be a 5. And if it wasn't for the final zone, this would be down at a 4. His explosions look great, his attacks look great, all of his various combination of slime detonations, everything just looks great. And the zone-to-zone nature of it, how you push him back and back and back to the final stand. But then that final stand, him having that locking you in, the rocks rising, him smoking from his own slime. The overexertion means that he's damaging himself as the room fills up with puddles of bubbling death, and then that roar to trigger it all in apocalypse rain. It's just, and it looks good. It looks so good. Farmability then, for me, is of course a 5, because I never will not love seeing Raging Brachydios. He's my favourite monster. So I might be a little bit biased on that front, but at the same time... Think about that, you get to hear that every time you hunt him. But no, I think the farmability is really good because each time you're like, alright, can we do enough damage in the first zone to push him straight to the final zone in one go? There is a satisfaction to that. You really feel your progress at the fight get better and better and better and better. And I think that's really, really nice. And that final zone is always fun. It might not always be intense, but it is always fun. In fact, I do think it's the easiest part of the fight, but it's kind of a almost reward for getting there. Just see it to the finish. Don't panic. Be calm. You can do this. Fair challenge, then, I also have at a 5. Because, again, I think he is fairly difficult. The first few times around, he was absolutely pain. And he still definitely catches people off guard. Now, this probably could be a 4. I might be, again, being generous to my boy. But at the same time, I just think he is one of the most perfectly balanced monsters. The first few zones are really difficult. He does a lot of damage, a lot of explosions, a lot of area of effect. Then the final zone is panic-inducing, but once you get a handle on it, actually easier than his normal fight. And it has this lovely curve to it that I think is absolutely spot on. And that gives him a total of also 18, which is the same as Fatalis, which is why I was, just so difficult choosing. Honestly, they are a draw in my eyes. They really, really are. So there you go. That is my 5 best fights of Iceborne. I would love to know your thoughts, and honestly, I could have talked on each of the 5 for this entire video, but, you know, I have a habit of, well, waxing lyrical, so I shall try and resist. But yes, I really need to know your 5, and ideally why. It's a lovely discussion to have, and I am excited to see you all have it down in the comments. But until next time, like you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon down below. It really is the lifeblood that keeps us going, and if you want us to still be around in the foreseeable future, that's the best way to go about it. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.